And join me every Tuesday night of the month at 9:30 for Affordable Housing Matters, a show developed to educate the viewers in the New Orleans metro area with step-by-step basics of home ownership. Every show, we will bring in leaders and representatives to discuss topics such as credit counseling, home buyer training, mortgage lending, property insurance, fair housing practices, and so much more. Again, that's Tuesday nights at 9:30 right here on WLAE.
We're local and educational. You're watching WLAE-TV, celebrating 40 years of New Orleans public television.
Inside New Orleans Sports with Eric Asher is underwritten by...
At Villery's Florist, we deliver the magic of flowers 7 days a week to the North Shore and South Shore in the New Orleans area. Whether it's for birthday parties, baby celebrations, Villery's provides colorful floral displays for all. With a store full of fresh-cut flowers, exotic tropical flowers, orchids, roses, and even fruit baskets, our goal is to make your vision a reality. Villery's Florist, proudly serving Louisiana since 1969.
Dave Miette Insurance Agency. Auto, home, flood, business, 504-556-0809. Dave Miette, INSagency.com.
C&C Drugs is a family-owned pharmacy that's been serving Southeast Louisiana for over 50 years. Whether you need help taking care of an elderly family member, a growing child, or even a pet, C&C provides patient-centered care for your entire family. C&C Drugs, large enough to serve you, small enough to know you. Locations in Mandeville and Araby.
Good evening and welcome to another edition of Inside New Orleans Sports. I'm your host, Eric Asher. Over the next hour, we'll cover most of the home teams. Saints, LSU, Tulane. No Pelicans, even though there's a schedule release this evening for the New Orleans Pelicans. We'll get into those guys a little bit later on, maybe again toward the end of the month. But football is around, and we're going to be all over football today on the program. Breaking it down for us, Richie Mills, Sports Director, WGNO-TV Channel 26 Sports. Also, Guerry Smith of NOLA.com, The Advocate, and the Times-Picayune. Gentlemen, welcome to the show. Thanks for coming down tonight. And as always, we like to start off letting folks know a little bit about what's going on over at your particular stations or your publication. And as usual, Channel 26 has got all the shows you're looking for during this football season, and also the home of the SEC.
Absolutely, and for the 11th year in a row, the home of the the American Championship now, which is something people might not have paid attention to up until the last 3 years. But in terms of general programming, you can catch us weeknights, WGNO News at 6 and 10, Saturdays at 6 and 10, Sundays at 5 and 10. Friday nights at 10:30 on NOLA 38, the CW, we have the WGNO Sports Zone, which now that we're getting into the fall, it shifts to a more college football focused show. So that's always fun. And that also replays Saturday mornings at 10:30 on WGNO. Now the fun part, the first Friday night football episode is next Friday night, the 22nd. It's a scrimmage show. It's only 30 minutes, but it gives us a chance to preview some of the top programs and the top names in the area for the high school football season. And then Saturday, August 30th, we have a 1-hour post-game show for the LSU Clemson opener, which also kickstarts Sports Zone Saturday Night Football, which is our weekend SEC college football show where we also highlight Tulane, Southeastern, Nichols, Southern, all the in-state programs. But it all starts here, and it's coming, and all we could do is brace for it.
Yes.
I'm sorry, Gary. I think the show's over now.
It is. That's all the time we have, folks. Thanks. We appreciate it. But you can check out Richie at Channel 26. Actually, I set the DVR, and I never miss any of the programs. That's what you should do as well. Gary, welcome back to the show. Again, NOLA.com, Times-Picayune. You guys get ready to do a pull-out, right?
Yep.
The Picayune. Tell us all about it.
We're going to do a tab section. I wrote the Tulane preview for that already. And accurate, up-to-the-minute depth chart information in that as well. I don't think we've done a tab section in a few years, but we're doing back to the pull-out section. That's good.
I love those.
FulltimeNOLA.com, basically. I used to do Rivals. For people who don't know, my Rivals website went by the wayside when they merged with On3. I was a casualty of that. But you can read my stuff every day at NOLA.com.
Yeah, no doubt about it. And both guys doing an excellent job covering local sports here in New Orleans. All right, let's start off with the New Orleans Saints. Again, they are they've now already had their practice against the Los Angeles Rams, which is a good thing in terms of a joint practice. It's something, again, we were hoping they would do. That they got that scheduled right before they come back to New Orleans. But the big news this week is all the injuries the Saints have suffered once again. Will Clapp has been put on IR with a Liz Frank injury. Also, again, Bub Means is on IR now, again, with an ankle injury. Penning is out for a few weeks with, again, a turf toe. Same injury he had when he was a rookie. And Alontae Taylor out for a few weeks with a groin injury. I thought that the light practices were supposed to curtail these injuries. Obviously not.
It's California. This is the second year in a row they've gone to UC Irvine for training camp, and you suffer a bevy of injuries. That's not the reason, of course, but it's injuries to 3 positions and 3 players you couldn't really afford to have. And unfortunately, it happened in California here in the preseason, but the beauty of it is you'll get them back sooner than later. But it's not encouraging news, especially for Alontae Taylor, who you thought was going to be your shutdown corner this year, Trevor Penning, who was making strides at the guard position, and Will Clapp, who provides depth at center and guard, now out, experienced depth in that. It's definitely injuries you could not have happen.
Right. And also, guys, and I've talked about it on the radio show, if you look at the Saints' first team, they can compete in the NFL. They compete in the NFC South. The problem is, again, the NFL is a league of attrition, and you're going to need your backups, and years of undrafted free agents, maybe holding on to your rookies too long, not having money under the salary cap to really go out there and upgrade the back end of your roster. That has really come back to bite them over the last couple of years. And now you're in a situation where you're hoping that, again, maybe you could take the next step. And now you've lost Means, you've lost Clapp for the year. When you look at the second and third teams of this team right now, leaves a lot to be desired. I mean, there's just not a lot of quality depth on this team. Yeah,
I mean, this is a team very thin, pretty much across the board. They cannot afford injuries. Like Richie said, I mean, obviously Means isn't coming back. A couple of these guys aren't, but Trevor Penning, those guys, he should be okay. Turf toe, though. Every time I hear turf toe, I always feel like you can double the time that they say it's going to be before the guy is actually effective, because it's a sprained toe. You can't play. You can't do what you normally do on that. But yeah, this is a team that they're thin already. Obviously, question marks across the board, and they have to be healthy to give themselves any chance going into the year. And
the other thing is, how do you add players to your roster? Okay, first of all, you probably don't want to. I'll say right now, you don't want to give up any of your draft picks the next year, because again, you might be a top 5 team in the NFL draft. You are. The luck of the draw here, you're picking 14th on the waiver wire, because it goes based off last year's record. So again, 13 teams are going to pick before you, okay, before you get an opportunity to be able to be in that situation. Then if vested veterans clear waivers, they're going to have an opportunity to go wherever they want. Yes, you got $20 million. How many of those guys are going to cast a lot with the New Orleans Saints?
Especially with the low expectations that are placed on this team. No primetime games, no opportunity. Playing time is going to be there if that's what you're looking for. If you're a vet, if you're looking for playing into a bigger contract, this is a place to go. But if you are the Saints, the only way you're going to afford some of these veterans who, when you see their daily transactions, it's a lot of guys you really have never heard before, because they're getting veteran discounts on these guys who you're expecting to patch into a hole right now you didn't expect to be there. The unfortunate reality of all this is you're still trying to figure out who your quarterback's going to be, but you don't have a healthy offensive line to give that person a fair shot. Your defense, the back end of it now, you have questions, because again, Alontae Taylor was a guy you put a lot of stock in, and rightfully so. He's shown tremendous improvement throughout the course of his career there, but you're now going to have to ask younger guys to do more, and then older older guys, you're getting them on a veteran discount who are going to have to do more as well. We don't know how that's going to work, but again, I think that comes with the low expectations already placed on this team.
I mean, you could raid a team's practice squad, right, and maybe grab some veterans there, but I mean, at the end of the day, the Saints are between a rock and a hard place right now with these injuries.
No, they really are, and Alontae Taylor, that's huge because the defense is going to have to play better than people think it's going to be, because the offense isn't going to be very good. I can almost assure you of that. They don't have a quarterback. I'm not Tyler Shuck might be really good down the road, but what are the odds of a guy drafted in the second round being ready to play right away? Spencer Rattler, he always does some good things, but he does bad things, and he didn't win a start last year. I don't think he's an NFL caliber yet quarterback, and I think that'll be the case all year long. So it's got to be the rest of the roster helping these guys out, and it's going to have to be the defense that exceeds expectations for them to have any chance to do anything.
As far as Penning goes, again, he's a guy that is moving into the guard position right now. You would hope that that's going to be his final position on that line, but again, how quickly can he come back from turf toe? Can he have a shoe made that, again, will protect the toe like we've seen in the past? He's not a receiver. He's not a guy who's using a burst. But again, he is, again, going to be in a lot of traffic, again, with the toe. How much, again, the loss of reps hurt him in terms of the continuity on the line as well. Really, again, if you didn't want one player to get injured, you didn't want him to get injured because he needed every rep he could get.
Absolutely. When you look at it from the standpoint of not just learning a new position, but learning it in real time with real live bullets coming at you, but then the continuity aspect of it, you just basically read my mind. Learning how to play side by side with Kelvin Banks, and then for Kelvin and his development, how is that going to impact it moving forward? The guy that you want next to you, ideally, you're going to want with you through 18 weeks of NFL football, but that's something they're going to have to maneuver around right now for sure.
And Raids didn't show anything last week, again, as a tackle. Hopefully he's a better guard, because again, based on his performance last week, that's not a guy you can count on. So Saints went out and got all UFL center Micah Panasuk from the St. Louis Battlehawks, but he's on the street. I mean, again, he might be all UFL, but if he was that good, he'd be in a camp right now.
Absolutely, but unfortunately, that's what they need. That's what's available. That's what's proven. I think that's the beauty of the UFL, is you've seen what guys can do in a live game scenario. But it's ideally, if you're a Saints fan, it's not the name you want to see him bring in. But that's just what they could afford right now, unfortunately. And throughout the course of the draft, we talk about these positions that could have been addressed, like wide receiver and all that in terms of depth. They did not do that. And so this is the consequences that you're suffering now for not addressing those situations in the draft and then really earlier in the training camp process.
Let's talk quarterback now. Shuck versus Rattler. First of all, who do you think has the edge? And who do you think ultimately will be the starter for this team week one?
So the week one starter now is misconstrued for me, because I thought it was Spencer Rattler when it was all said and done, given what he experienced last year, the fact that experience was going to be more than really any quarterback in this draft class could have offered. But then when you see him play in their preseason opener, while he didn't do anything to lose the job, he didn't do anything to win the job either. I thought Tyler Shuck came in immediately aggressive. We saw that, of course, turn out to be a pick six right out of the gates. But one thing Kellen Moore has made clear about this quarterback competition is you're going to make mistakes. What's the response look like? In real time, in a single game scenario, Tyler Shuck responded with a touchdown pass. Now it's on Spencer Rattler. While you didn't play poor, you didn't play well enough to be the Saints starting quarterback. What's your response going to look like, not only in joint practices with the Rams, but the second and maybe third preseason game if this battle bleeds out? But the way it's trending right now, I think it's basically Tyler Shuck's job.
Guerry?
Yeah, I think this is one of those rare preseasons where the actual games are determining who's going to be the starter. You don't see that anymore in the NFL, which is why they keep decreasing the number of games they play. I lean towards Shuck just because I think he's going to end up being the guy, but I don't know that. If he goes out and stinks it up in the net, I really think it's going to be based on performance. But like Richie said, you've got to make plays out there, and the Saints they're absolutely going to need a quarterback that can make some plays. So I think they'll be more forgiving of Shuck's bad interception that was returned for a touchdown. The fact that he bounced back and hit a long touchdown pass and made some plays. rather than Spencer Rattler checking down on 3rd and 14 and not really doing anything of significance while he was out there.
I don't think it matters who's going to be the quarterback, because I really believe that, again, both guys are going to struggle.
Yeah,
I mean, I think again, and I mentioned this on a radio show this week. Again, the Saints fans have been spoiled with Drew Brees. They forgot about the Billy Joes of the past, but Billy Joes are back.
Yeah.
I mean, again, they're going to be laid over the middle. They're going to be throwing errant passes. They're going to get fooled by the defense. I mean, and if they don't have a running game, it's going to get even worse. Which leads me to my next question, Gary. They have not been able to run a ball effectively for the last couple years, and again now they're going to be counting on running the football to protect these quarterbacks. Your thoughts?
Yeah, it's a problem because you just said it. The passing game isn't going to be good this year, and we haven't even gotten into the receivers where they're thin and their top guys are injury prone.
Right.
I mean, how long is the next big hit Chris Olave takes could be the last big hit Chris Olave takes in his career, and they have to have him being a huge contributor on the field. So they need Alvin. I really don't think Alvin Kamara has lost anything. I know a lot of people. He's at an age where usually you have. Yes. But his numbers last year were really good until he got hurt. He was going to have his first 1,000-yard season. He's good, but a running back can't play well if he doesn't have holes. And teams are going to first gear up to stop the run. They're going to load the box against this team because they're just not going to be worried about the quarterbacks beating him. I'll be surprised again if the running game is effective all year long just because of that.
Your thoughts?
And I'll add this. I think Alvin Kamara, the way that he's able to catch passes, you can utilize him in that regard. I think that is sort of a safety valve for whoever is the quarterback. But I don't believe Eric McCoy played in the preseason opener. And I've said for years that I think he might be their most important piece on offense. So in that regard, I think a lot of things will look different once you get him in a live game scenario with these quarterbacks, with the running backs, with the offensive line, just to get everyone in check. But to Gary's point, there's no diversity in the wide receiver room. Everyone is the same height. They run the same speed. They do everything well. There's no big body receiver to take the brunt into those blows when you need someone to go catch a jump ball in the red zone. You don't really have that. Bub Memes might have been that for you. Now he's on IR. But I think the run game, in a sense, when you look at it, Alvin Kamara has not lost a beat, to his point. Kendra Miller showed you some things. It's just a matter of, can 2 and 3 behind Kamara stay healthy? Cam Akers, a great option. He's had a great camp. Has not proven he can stay healthy in the regular season either. That's no knock on the potential of both players. That's just the track record of both of them. That's why they drafted Devin Neal in the 6th round. So again, in terms of a run game, we don't know what it's going to look like because the injuries to the offensive line are not doing them any favor. And a young quarterback situation, growing pains are going to be a thing that people are going to experience throughout the course of this year, but I think it's more necessary than not.
Do you think that they will choose between Akers and Clyde Hilaire, or ultimately, again, both guys will make the team? One will be on the practice squad, one will be on the 53.
I think both guys will make the team, just because you can't predict who's going to be available. Availability has been one of the most difficult aspects of that room here in recent years, especially when you look at Kendra Miller, who's had trouble making it out of training camp or the off-season programs, and Cam Akers, who's had trouble making it through the course of a regular season. But Clyde is, might be the most popular running back in the state of Louisiana, and proven winner with the Super Bowl champions. So again, I think that's a good option. You keep available and you keep on the active roster.
Another guy is Velius Jones, who again they're going to try to utilize not just as a running back, but also as a receiver. He's got some great speed. Without having Taysom Hill available for you, maybe he's that joker player that we've seen throughout the Peyton era in the Moore offense.
They have to find something. they just don't have enough, because you could have quite a discussion on who's the guy the Saints can least afford to lose, because there's a ton of guys they can't afford to lose. If Alvin Kamara gets injured, they're done. I mean, I saw some projection that Kendra Miller wouldn't make the roster. I'm not buying that. He's shown enough. I didn't like the draft pick. I don't like the fact that he's never healthy, but he has shown flashes where he could play. And Clyde Edwards-Helaire, I thought he was going to be better with the Chiefs. He had some moments, but as a runner, he really struggled with the Chiefs. I mean, he just couldn't, after his rookie year, he just didn't do much. I don't trust any of those guys. This team is just so thin.
On defense, let's talk a little about the defensive line. Staley's got his guys, Williams, Bullard, Rumpf, that have been brought in. Those guys know his defense. We saw a little bit of a sample side of Ridgeway and Boyd last week, where again they look like they've taken the next step. I have a hard time believing that this team is going to be able to stop the run with Shepard, Saunders, Brzee, and Foskey. So my guess is, again, that Staley will lean more toward guys that he's comfortable with, that have played his system before. Your thoughts?
It's crazy because I thought their front seven might have been the deepest and most talented aspect of this entire team. But I think you will see improvement in that regard. It has to be when your defense was basically bottom 3 in the league last year. But I think as long as that unit can stay healthy, of course he's going to lean on his familiarity because he knows what he's going to get from those guys. But I think they're deep enough to where you don't necessarily have to rely on them to be impactful players. Just impactful in the sense of when they're being used, and I think that just speaks to the depth they have in that front seven. But I think adding Stutzman to the fold, I think that certainly addressed the need at linebacker. But the defensive line, when you look at it based off of Chase Young's potential, if there was a stat for almost sacks last year, he probably would have been first in the NFL. And then Carl Granderson's been solid for you. But I think the depth of that front seven is the strongest area of this team, and if you're Brandon Staley, you can effectively utilize that.
Yeah, and I think the key to the running game, to stopping the run, is going to be Devin Godchaux, and again, how healthy he can stay.
Yeah, no doubt. And by the way, you mentioned Stutzman. When he got drafted, I mean, I'm a college guy. I cover Tulane. This guy was a stud in college, and so I went and read all the draft reports, and they were mostly negative on him. That he can't cover the pass. weren't sure he was good enough to be an NFL player, and all he's done is shown that he. I mean, we don't know until the games start, but I think he was. I think there's a lot of things the Saints have done wrong in recent years. I think picking him, I think he's going to turn out to be a steal in the draft. And
I would agree. And look, when you look at what they have right now, I mean, I keep waiting for Jackson and Sewell and Ford and Stallbird to take the next step. They're all really good special teams players. But again, when they were forced into action last year because of injuries, there was a huge drop-off. So again, at some point, somebody's got to be able to step up. Demario Davis is not long for the NFL, so they went out and they got Stutzman. So maybe again, he's the heir apparent there. But at some point, one of those 4 or 5 guys that have been in the mix as special team players have to step up and again be guys that they can count on to be able to play on that defense.
It's certainly the circumstances of the situation we talked prior with their salary cap situation, but stopping the run was one of the areas they were the worst in the NFL last year. They pick up Devon Godchaux on a nice veteran deal. So that was, he's a run eater pretty much. So you wanted to address all the areas that you immediately needed to address, and I think they did that. But again, I think it's just the low expectations, the inability to add quality pieces in the offseason. It's finally come home now to collect. And ultimately, that's why the expectations are so low surrounding this team. But I think a year like this for these guys, if they're going to be there next year, I think can only be beneficial. And you have to look at it from that regard. There are going to be some low points, but I think the only way up is up from there.
I would say one of the strongest position groups on the team is the secondary. What are your thoughts on the secondary?
Before Alontae Taylor got hurt, I thought they were young, talented. I thought the upside was tremendous. But because, again, you've seen a guy like Alontae Taylor just progress each and every year, every role they've asked him to do. Kool-Aid McKinstry's had a great camp, and I think that's something that's been verbalized more times than not. How does that translate to an NFL regular season? While he was available for the majority of the year last year, he did have those rookie moments. What does that look like for him as well? But I think their safety positions are as sure as any in the NFL. When they were able to bring in, from the Colts, I can't remember, I just blanked on his name. Blackman. I thought that the value on that, given the production that he had in 5 years with Indianapolis, I thought that was a steal financially. Justin Reed's as solid as any player in the NFL. So I think the safety positions are great. The cornerbacks took a hit, but all in all, there's a lot to be excited about the secondary.
And I like Yedem. I mean, again, I think he's a starting corner.
I agree. I was disappointed when he left because I'd never heard of him when he was on the roster the first time, and then who made that play? Yedem. Who made that play? Yedem. And I think that was the secondary is one area that's not going to be an area that beats the Saints this year. They've got a lot of positions that might beat them, and that's an area that I think is going to be an area of strength for them.
Critique Coach Moore for me so far on his first camp as a head coach.
I'm going to wait till the games start. Look, he's got to be better than Dennis Allen. I mean, when you have players, when you have Alvin Kamara openly making comments that I don't think Alvin Kamara, I don't think a player should make those comments during the year, but the lack of respect that he had and belief that this roster had, you can see it. That's one area where I think the defense will be better. Dennis Allen was a defensive guy. He's a good defensive coordinator. His defense didn't play well when he was head coach, when he was delegating. But no, I'm I'm not at their practices. I'm not going to judge Kellen Moore until I see the game start. I think he's going to have the rookie learning curve that first-time head coaches have, though.
I think up to this point, it's been nothing but respect and complimentary comments towards Kellen Moore. Based off, what training camp has been so far, right out of the gates, the schedule's been efficient. I think the veterans on the roster, the players appreciate that in a sense. You can accomplish more in less time, and then there's understanding that it is hot outside, so more and less is great. But I think, time will tell what he's going to be as an NFL head coach. But I think when you hear the offensive linemen talk about their excitement around the scheme, I think when Kellen has an understanding of, what these guys have gone through having been on an NFL roster not too long ago, one of the big concerns for me was, he is the same age, if not younger, than maybe a couple players on the Saints roster. But that has not been a big deal. I know Demario Davis went on national television, had a lot of positive things to say about Kellen Moore, the impact, but I think the understanding, the professionalism, and the track record of success certainly has helped, and I think the players are starting to see that so far in training camp in terms of systems, schematics, how it can all come together. It's just a matter of seeing how it all plays out here in the regular season, but up to this point, I think it's been positive.
Do they start Shuck on Sunday against Jacksonville?
I would assume.
I would think. He's got to get a shot with the ones, right?
He's got to start this game. Yeah, it just wouldn't make any sense for them to start Rattler a second straight game. It's a quarterback competition. Right. You want to see different situations, different aspects. So I think that's what they're
same.
And
you want to win the fan base over a little bit. Your preseason home opener. I think they want to see the young guy right out of the gates. But again, I think you give Shuck the opportunity, but you also have Spencer Rattler know that what's his response going to look like from preseason game number one. Is Shuck going to fall off? Is he going to struggle? Is he going to capitalize? I think it's going to be very telling playing in front of a home crowd.
Yeah, I would agree. Again, look, I think the Saints fans have to brace themselves because, again, as I mentioned before, I think we all agree their first team, they can compete. But the problem is, again, we're already seeing, again, the injuries start to crop up. And as they have to go deeper into this roster and playing more players that, again, that maybe don't have the experience, we're going to see a drop-off. And that was expected from most of the people that took a look at this team and looked at the depth on this team and said that, again, they won't be able to sustain a season.
And I'd say at least 90% of the time in the NFL, a team gets hit by the injury bug. I'd say maybe 1 out of every 10 teams goes through a season and doesn't lose key guys. So you have to. That's the one sport where you have to have depth, and if you don't, unless you're extremely lucky, you're going to get exposed.
No doubt about it. Any final thoughts?
Well, it's something that shot him in the foot in years past. I feel like every time we talk about the Saints, the word injury is used or injuries are used. But in a sense, I think this is why the win total's so low. They don't have a prime time game. When you look at the schedule, it's honestly hard to find 6 wins, but I think it's something they can manage throughout the course of the year. But time will tell. They could be the best team in the NFL when they roll out.
Well, they always go worst to first. We see that all the time, again, but you would think that you need more quality depth to be able to do that. We'll see. Just again, I think that everybody that's out there that's the Saints fans right now, I think you got to be bracing for what's coming. But I think you have to be patient because it's a new regime. And this regime needs an opportunity to be able to, again, get their guys in the mix, get their system in place, and you're not going to do that in one season.
But it's exciting. I think that's one thing people need to also pay attention to is that this is exciting. While it's going to hurt at moments to watch games on Sundays, maybe this is an exciting time for the New Orleans Saints franchise.
Definitely. I think it's going to be a rough start. Go back. Jim Mora's first game as Saints head coach. Now, he inherited a better roster, but the Saints looked like one of the worst coach teams I've ever seen in their opener that year. And their start that year was really slow. And then as the year went along, they got better and better. And then you found out how good a coach Jim Mora was.
Yeah, only if you could have a bunch of USFL players that could get
that helped a little bit.
That could turn things around for you. Well, that bum draft that he had was in '81. It really kind of buoyed that Mora team as well. You're watching Inside New Orleans Sports Director over Channel 26 Sports. Richie Mills is our guest, along with Guerry Smith of Knoll.com, the Townspeak Union, the Advocate. I'm your host, Eric Asher. We're here from our underwriters. We come back, Tulane's on tap as we open up the B block. Stay tuned for more Inside New Orleans Sports.
Located at 3701 Iberville Street in Mid-City is Katie's Restaurant and Bar. Open 7 days a week, Katie's offers daily specials for lunch, dinner, and Sunday brunch. Serving New Orleans cuisine such as fried shrimp platters, grilled redfish, and a fully stocked bar. And don't forget about our expanded event seating and local entertainment. Featured on the Best of Food Network's diners, drive-ins, and dives, Katie's Restaurant and Bar.
Burkhardt Burkhart's Air Conditioning, Heating, and Refrigeration has been family-owned and operated since 1989. Burkhart has energy-efficient solutions and offers brands such as Mitsubishi ductless AC units and Amana, the only manufacturer with a lifetime unit replacement warranty. Burkhart's offers maintenance bundle packages that include servicing your AC, generator, and tankless water heater. For more information on the services Burkhart's provides, visit acpromise.com. Burkhart's Air Conditioning, Heating, and Refrigeration, providing comfort for life.
Welcome back to Inside New Orleans Sports. I'm your host, Eric Asher. Richie Mills and Guerry Smith on our panel this evening. All right, we'll start with the Tulane Green Wave. Again, received 33 votes in the AP poll after getting 36 votes in the coaches poll. They're the highest ranked non-Power 4 school behind Boise State, courtesy of my friend Guerry Smith over there, 25th overall. The big question is what's going on with the quarterbacks. For that answer, we turn to Guerry Smith. Guerry, what happened in practice today?
The news broke this morning in the quarterback situation, and we won't know how serious it is yet, but Brendan Sullivan, John Sumrall has made his quarterbacks live this year in short yardage situations, and they did a short yardage period at the Saints facility last week, and Brendan Sullivan took on about 6 tacklers on one play and gave more than he got. Well, today they did their first goal line session, same thing. He got sandwiched between about 3 defenders and came up gumpy and was limping around. He's a tough guy. He stayed on the field, and the next play he took a quarterback keeper and beat everybody to the corner of the end zone, kind of threw the ball against the wall after he went to the end zone, and then was limping more significantly after that play. He actually tried to stay in for another play before John Sumrall removed him. He did not look very happy, Brendan Sullivan, after the play. There's Sumrall's initial report after practice was that an initial scan didn't reveal anything serious. He called it more of a foot-leg thing than rather a lower leg thing than a knee injury, but that was the initial report. Just going by Brendan Sullivan's facial expressions, it looked like it might be pretty significant. And Sullivan he'd been taking more first-team reps than Jake Retzlaff to this point. And he clearly is going to, if he is healthy, he is going to be involved in this offense this year, whether it's as a package, as a runner type like Ty Thompson had last year, or maybe as the starting quarterback at the beginning of the year. So this bears watching. I'll be shocked if he plays in Tulane scrimmage on Saturday. I'm sure they'll hold him out of that. And so, yeah, that throws a wrench into plans depending on how quickly he can come back.
It's my fault. Kiss of death on the radio show. Did a monologue on again. Tulane is in a great position because again they have 2 quarterbacks. Most of the adage is if you have 2 quarterbacks, you have no quarterback. Right. But in Tulane's case, they have 2 really good quarterbacks. Both guys are mobile. Both guys have great arms. Both guys have experience. So for Sumrall, that is a great thing considering where they were in the spring. Where again you got both guys. You saw the spring practices where again it didn't look like they had a quarterback that could play in Division I football in the spring. How big of a blow is this for Tulane?
I think it is big because my takeaways from the early stages of training camp is that, Brendan Sullivan might have been their best quarterback. Now, Jake Retzlaff still learning the offense, learning the city, learning teammates, learning all these things. But in some similar cases, so is Brendan Sullivan. But I think in terms of confidence, experience, starting experience, I think he's looked like the best quarterback up until this point. But now all people can say is, well, I think this was Jake Retzlaff's job anyway, so I think he's going to be their week 1 starter. But to your point about the overall experience of the quarterback room, one thing that sticks out is the experience in this year's competition much more than last year's experience in this competition. So, and Caden Simmons is a big part of that as well, considering all his starting experience at Ball State. But it is a big blow because Brendan Sullivan was giving Jake Retzlaff a run for his money, might have been their best quarterback so far in fall camp, but now you can't see him take that next step as really establishing himself as a potential week 1 starter.
Right. But in your opinion, there will be packages for him, even if he's not the starter, right?
If he's healthy, there will absolutely be packages for him because he's a beast as a runner, and he just fit. At that short yardage situation last week at the Saints facility, he was going right into the face of defenders after the play. He had to get a lecture in this first scrimmage because he got a slight late hit out of bounds, running out of bounds, and his first reaction was to go right at the defender. He would have probably gotten a personal foul penalty for retaliating on the play. But Sumrall loves that attitude. He wants him to control it a little bit, but Sumrall loves those aggressive players who really care. And and like I said, he was limping pretty significantly today, and he still outraced the defense to the corner of the end zone in a goal line drill because he plays hard every snap. So there will definitely, even if Retzlaff is a starter, there would be a package for him for sure.
And to that point, there could be a package where there's 5 quarterbacks on the field at one time. When you look at Garrett Mamhat, you look at Ty Thompson, Brendan Sullivan.
That's right.
I mean, there is a package there where you could have 5 quarterbacks on the field at one time.
We need to get the Guinness Book of World Records people out here to see if any team's ever had that many potential quarterbacks.
Who's throwing the touchdown pass? You have no idea. But Brendan Sullivan definitely embodies the identity of what John Sumrall wants this team to be, and I think that's something that's been evident as well through fall camp.
Samanza was at Ball State, if I'm not mistaken, freshman of the year in the MAC. Is that what it was?
Yeah. It was his second. He was a redshirt freshman.
Redshirt freshman?
But he was freshman of the year. He's gotten better.
Okay.
To my mind, I don't feel like it's not quite the Jake Haener situation where the coaches claim he's in the picture when he ain't. But Samanza's problem is he makes too many mistakes. Like he throws more interceptions than the other 2 quarterbacks combined at scrimmage. He tries to, he's a little smaller. I think he tries to, he's kind of in the Darian Minsa mold, and that one of his biggest strengths is prolonging plays without running, but he's not at that Darian Minsa stage yet where he then makes the right throw. A lot of times he throws into traffic. Sumrall says he's still in the picture. Sumrall says that they can win with Samanza. He's definitely a lot more advanced than he was in the spring.
Okay.
But to me, he's definitely been number 3 in that list of quarterbacks.
Let's talk about the offensive line, some changes there. Again, like in any school now, that is going to be dabbling in the transfer portal. When you have positions where you have a big turnover and you bring a lot of players in from the transfer portal, there's going to be a ramp-up period. You're looking for cohesion. How are they looking? Are they going to be ready for week 1 against Northwestern, in your opinion?
They're looking better than I thought they would, because I bought into the hype about the defense in the spring, and then they came out in the scrimmage on Saturday, and the offense pushed them around for the first couple of possessions. They were really dominating until Samanza threw a pick, and then the defense recovered after that and played better. Maybe the most important player on the roster is their center, Jack Hollifield, because he came in. He's been a starter from day one. He's a grad transfer, got a ton of experience, and their backup centers are really struggling with the snaps. I mean, again, that won't matter if Jack Hollifield stays healthy, because the center doesn't come out of the game. But they're trying to find backup centers, and they keep spraying. Today there was a snap, and John Sumrall caught the ball, and he was 10 yards behind the quarterback and went right into his hands.
Not a good thing.
Not a good thing. But Hollifield, I think he was a huge addition. That's a position where they've had a ton of stability over the years. He's the second straight grad transfer to come in and be anointed a starter, and I think his development. They've got some young guys on the right side of the line that are playing well. Reese Baker has looked good. He looks like he's probably going to be a starter on the right side of the line, and obviously the left side of the line they had no issues with, because they had Shadre Hurst and Derek Graham. But I've actually the offensive line has outperformed my expectations going into preseason camp.
You feel the same way?
Oh, absolutely, because I try to have my guys there every single day.
Yes.
If I can't be there, and every time they come back, I say, who looked the best today? And on multiple occasions they'll tell me, man, the running backs had a ton of big runs, and that doesn't happen without the play of the offensive line. Which I know there's only 5 starters returning on this entire team, but Shadre Hurst and then them addressing everything else through the transfer portal and high school recruiting, I think has certainly helped. But the offensive line definitely ahead of schedule. I think this transfer portal class as a whole, I mean, you can correct me if I'm wrong. I think it's more talented than the one they brought in last year.
No doubt.
And while there's so much uncertainty right now, I remember just standing there the first week of practice and saying, this team's got some dudes on it. Like from just about every position group, there's some dudes on this team, and I think that's something to be excited about. That's also something that might catch people off guard.
Right. Running back position, they got a couple.
They've got 4.
So how many are going to play?
My favorite running back on the roster is the 4th-string running back right now.
Okay.
We're going to see how that works out once the season starts. Jamari McClure, when the ball's in his hands, he makes plays happen. In the scrimmage the other day, he drew John Sumrall's ire early because he got absolutely crushed on a play and fumbled. And John Sumrall was screaming at him as he went off the field. He was out for a while. He comes back in with the backups and had like a 55-yard touchdown run. he's electric. The question with him is, can he do all the right things? But another guy, the guy that's going to start and that the coaches have been the highest on from the beginning of spring is Maurice Turner, transfer from Louisville. I wasn't as impressed with him in the spring as the coaches were. I'm retracting that statement now because he looks sensational. All the things Summerall said about him, the quick cut, the making hard decisions and change of direction. He had an 18-yard touchdown on the opening series of the scrimmage the other night where it looked like he was hemmed in and he just made one cut and ran around the corner, and he's looked like that at practice consistently. And then Arnold Barnes is the most experienced running back. He's still around. Zuberi Mobley, a transfer from FAU. It's a stat I love to give. He's the second leading returning rusher by yards per game in the entire American Conference, and he's never been higher than third string at Tulane. So they've got 4 guys. I think all of them, it doesn't matter what the depth chart is.
Right.
They're all going to play in the opener, and then it's going to be based on performance. But I'm really, really impressed with Maurice Turner, and we'll see if I'm right about Jamari McClure, because those things that the coaches are worried about picking up blitzes, that stuff does matter.
Yes.
But in terms of just with the ball in your hands, and he proved it against UAB last year in the one game he played in a blowout, he is electric. And I don't think Mekhi Hughes was a terrific runner, but I really don't think that's going to be a concern for them at all. John Summerall's teams always run the ball well, and they've got talented guys and depth at that position.
You concur?
Absolutely, because I think the pass blocking aspect of it has certainly helped those first 2, Arnold Barnes and Turner. But Jamari McClure, to your point, I remember they're playing Temple last year in a blowout situation. I'm on the sideline shooting the game in a rainstorm, but once he entered the game, everyone on Tulane's sideline, the players, were paying close attention because they knew what was out there. They knew it was already thunder and lightning probably, but the electricity was out on the field when Jamari McClure had the ball in his hands. And but that's something they know. Can he do it consistently? Yes. But I think what John Summerall has showed us in past in terms of Darian Mensah, if a guy is making plays like that, he will find a way to the field, even in a crowded room like Darian was in last year with the quarterback situation. But I mean, it's beautiful in the sense they have all this depth that they can turn to. You don't want to say that they're prepared for any injury, any situation whatsoever, but they certainly are.
Right. Receive a big turnover with the draft and graduation.
Ask me every day and I'll give you a different receiver. Now, they're not proven. I mean, it's going to be, I'm not convinced how good these guys are going to be, but boy, they have a lot of them, and I'd have a hard time telling you what the depth chart order is right now, other than Shaz Preston is their number 1. But he's not proven either. He only, because of the hamstring injury last year, he didn't play a lot. Obviously, he was a huge recruit coming out of Louisiana, went to Alabama. He showed that especially in the spring and at the beginning of preseason camp. He's been quiet the last week, but Mario Williams was quiet last year in preseason too. They know what they have in Shaz Preston, so they're working other guys right now. But it is wide open. The surprise to a lot of people, I think, is it looks to me like on opening night, Garrett Mamahat, former quarterback for Brother Martin, son of a former Tulane pitcher and major leaguer. I think there's a good chance that he's going to be starting against Northwestern, because he's played. If they stay true to the reps that they're giving the players in practice, he's been with the first team all week long. Yesterday at the Shrine on Airline, they did a quick bubble screen to him and he broke it for like 50 yards. He's a better athlete than people think he is. He's an amazing story, because he had never played wide receiver in his life until Willie Fritz's son suggested they move him to wide receiver in preseason camp 2 years ago. John Summerall, after his first practice at Tulane, he was one of the first guys he mentioned. Now, he has to prove it in games, because I wrote a feature on him 2 years ago. He still hadn't caught a pass. He didn't catch a pass 2 years ago. He didn't catch a pass last year. But I really think it's such a balanced group that it's really. That's truly one where it's going to be totally based on performance once the game starts, because they got about 9 or 10 guys. And Bryce Bohannon's another guy that the coaches like, who hasn't really had a whole lot of production but is a good leader. I don't really have any idea how that, other than Shaz Preston, I have no idea how that's going to shape up. But they have like 9 or 10 guys that have a chance to be the guy at that position.
Defensively, again, they hit the transport portal hard, but they look like they've got some studs.
They've had him since the spring. I mean, Sam Howard, I think it all starts and stops with him. Bailey Despany on the back end, I think that's a huge return for them. But while you mentioned there's not a lot of returning starters, there's a lot of quality in the starters they did return. And I think Despany and Sam Howard really embody that belief. But no, the transfer portal additions they brought in, they have height, they have length, they have speed, they have power, they have everything they could possibly have. But the defense has been the strongest unit maybe up until this point. That's an area I think they won't really have to worry about too much initially right out of the gates, but they're going to be tested in a sense. But I think the defense has been spectacular.
Right. The players that maybe we should look for on the defensive side of the ball this year.
Well, first of all, one of the most misleading stats out there is that Tulane only returns 3 defensive starters, which is true, but they returned 5 of their top 7 tacklers. Jack Chianchu didn't start last year. I think he's going to be an all-conference player at safety. There's so many guys to look at, but Santana Hopper is a guy that one player after the other raves about. It's funny, he didn't do much in the scrimmage after all that talk, but he's been unbelievable in practice. John Summerall again the other day said he has the potential to blow up every team drill they run because of how dominant he can be. He's just one of many guys. Mo Westmoreland transferred from UTEP. And I'll give you, they did so well in the Porter. There's a nickelback. TJ Smith is his name. He had an interception in the scrimmage. He has intercepted Caden Samanza 3 straight practices. He came from that famed powerhouse East Central. I had to look him up. They're a Division II school. Right. And I'd say there's a 50-50 chance that he's going to be their starting nickelback. He's in a race with Javion White, who played a lot last year. The portal additions, this is a loaded, talented defense. Now they do have to prove it because they have not played together, and they've got so many newcomers. But this should be one of the most talented Tulane defenses they've had in a long time.
Sure looks like it on paper.
Absolutely, and I think Northwestern is probably the perfect test for them right out of the gates. A Power 4 in a sense, but a team that has proven it can be good, but one that can test, I think, Tulane's talent. I think week 1 will be very telling as to what that regular season adjustment looks like for them.
LSU 9th in both the AP and the coaches poll. Clemson is 4th in the AP poll and 6th in the coaches poll. And of course, LSU now getting ready to take on Clemson on Channel 26, 6:30 on August the 30th. Am I right?
Correct.
And of course, a post-game show.
1 hour
well.
post-game special.
Yeah, we like to throw that out there as well. The issue with LSU right now is, again, the scholarships, they're only having 3 scholarship running backs now, with, again, Lindsey being arrested and suspended from the program. Durham, Jackson, Berry, and they'll have to move now Juwan Johnson back to running back. That is a little bit scary for Brian Kelly going into an SEC, having to play the SEC and opening up against Clemson with, again, only 3 scholarship running backs on the team.
I think all 3 of them do 3 different things well, but I think the biggest concern for me is I think the biggest battle in that opener, first and foremost, is going to be the offensive line, how relatively new they are, the continuity. Of course, Tyree Adams going to be your starting left tackle, replacing Will Campbell. DJ Chester, maybe your only returning starter, you move him over to guard, but they use the portal to address other positions. But Clemson, notorious for having a dominant front 7. This game gives me Florida State vibes, not the first game, the second game, just because of the recipe for disaster that game was. You have a Heisman caliber quarterback, a solid defense coming back, and then questions surrounding LSU still in the offensive line. But I think Clemson's front 7 versus LSU's offensive line is going to determine this game. But the running back position from that perspective, Caden Durham's talented. I think Harlan Berry does something that's really going to complement that room well, in a sense of his high school coach, Kevin Dizer, has told me on multiple occasions that if he was not a 5-star running back, he was going to be a 5-star wide receiver. So I think if you do see LSU transition to maybe more of a pass-heavy approach, given maybe the lack of depth at running back, maybe if there is some dysfunction on the offensive line, Harlan Berry is more than capable of catching passes out of the backfield. And I think that's maybe the role that we saw Brian Kelly allude to him having this season. But it is concerning in a sense, but the trenches are going to decide that week 1 game.
Yeah, and look, LSU's had a tough time running the ball again over the last few years, which again is not something that most LSU fans like or anticipate every season. You normally have a really good back. You normally have pretty good offensive line. To Richie's point, they're going up against a Clemson team that's got at least 3 guys that might be drafted in the NFL, okay? And of course, now they're going to a situation where they had the turnover because of graduation or the NFL draft. They brought in guys in the transfer portal, but much like a lot of teams, they got to mesh, right? Yeah. Can they mesh in time for Clemson?
And look, I'll give LSU's administration credit for their scheduling philosophy, because I love seeing teams challenge themselves, but man, that's a lot of pressure on. Brian Kelly needs to win that game. And look, they can still make the college football playoff if they lose that game, but just in terms of the fan base, the fact that they have lost 5 consecutive openers since they won the national championship in 2019. They're going to Clemson. That's not easy. It'll be really interesting to see what they do, because I like Caden Durham, but the offensive line probably isn't as strong as it was last year. Again, full credit. You just don't see any college teams in the country going on the road to play a team like Clemson in the season in the season opener anymore. But there's a lot of pressure. If LSU, to his point, if they play like they did against FSU in the second FSU game, there's going to be a whole lot of bile on the airwaves after that game.
I only say that too because it's a road game against a quality opponent. And I think the last 3 years, the one phrase I've had to say the most is, while it's frustrating, it might not be fatal. And the second Florida State team went undefeated in the regular season. They don't make the playoff, but it just goes to show you that you can lose to a quality opponent like that. LSU was still in the playoff race up until another bad loss to Ole Miss, but I think in a sense it's not going to kill you at the end of the day. It just scares the heck out of me, given all the factors that are going to be there for LSU week 1. You have talent, yes, you do.
Yeah, you
but
do.
How much is that going to make up for the trench warfare that's going to be happening in that game?
And look, I've said it before. I think LSU will be better at the end of September into October than they are early in the season, because again, you need time to mesh, especially when you're talking about an offensive line and your offense. The other part of this is, when we talk about lack of depth at the quarterback position. You've got a situation now with Nussmeier, again, that has a patella tendonitis that he's dealing with. Last year we saw, again, a concerted effort to not allow him to run the football, which again I thought hurt the LSU offense. Now you've got Van Buren backing him up and not much more. The question I have, will we see a repeat of last year? Are we going to see Nussmeier again, maybe running the ball like we saw Jaden Daniels do in a lot of cases, maybe willing to take off and run? Or will it be a situation now, because of maybe the lack of quality depth behind him, that maybe once again he's going to be a pocket passer?
I think it'll be a pocket passer initially, just given maybe the caution they're going to take with this injury. Michael Van Buren, of course, had to play at Mississippi State last year under a lot of dire situations, but really he's not been Garrett Nussmeier throughout the course of fall camp. But you don't know that until you throw him in a live game scenario. You hope you don't see that till maybe next year, but it is very concerning. But I think it alters LSU's week 1 game plan, because while Garrett Nussmeier wasn't a mobile dual threat quarterback, he tucked it and ran when he could, and it was actually in meaningful situations.
It's hard to win now against good teams in college football with a quarterback who doesn't run at all.
I agree.
It just really is. You don't have to be running. It doesn't have to be just taking off, but you've got to have a guy that's willing to scramble and pick up that key first down on 3rd and 5 when nobody's open. So it will be really interesting to see what the philosophy is there with him.
LSU stacked at wide receiver. I mean, they are so deep at wide receiver. They may not be deep at running back, but boy, they are deep at wide receiver. Tight end, they look like they're pretty good. On the defensive side of the ball, what do you think about the Tigers?
I think they need to bend but not break. I think having Harold Perkins weeks back, I think that certainly helps in terms of leadership and in terms of talent. Those might be 2 of the most talented linebackers in the entire country. Their secondary, all those beatings that they've taken in recent years, it looks like they're proven. They shored up on the back end, the safety position with the transfer portal. Defensive line looks solid. You need the defense to bend but not break throughout the course of the year, but the defense that LSU won a national championship with, I want to say that this one might be just as, if not even more talented, which I think is going to help out a ton in some scenarios, especially week 1. But I think they're talented enough to get the job done, but we don't know if they're going to stay healthy throughout the course of the year.
I love the secondary. I think they've really done a great job in the transfer portal and upgrading that secondary, which has been an issue for this team. And look, again, the bottom line is in the SEC, you got to be able to stop the run. Can this team stop the run?
They're replacing a lot of production on that defensive line. They're going to have to, of course, and I think having a healthy Harold Perkins back is going to make other teams revert to the run a lot more than they want to, and I think that's something that I think Harold Perkins might be the biggest X factor in the entire SEC when he's utilized correctly and he's healthy. So I think he will alter opposing offenses' game plans, and I think that that's an area LSU will be able to dial in. Just mobile quarterbacks has been the biggest issue for this team in recent years, and the beauty of their SEC schedule, a lot of these traditional powers they've struggled with are breaking in new quarterbacks. So I think that plays into the advantage of LSU, not only having to key in on stopping the run, but game planning for opposing quarterbacks now, as opposing to having Jalen Milroe run for 4 or 5 touchdowns on you on a Saturday night.
And I think one of their best best moves was putting Harold Perkins back at the position he excelled at 2 years ago, because that wasn't just fan talk that he was better at that. Than I mean, I heard a lot of stuff like, well, the defense was different, all that. He's a lot better where they have them now than he was what they were trying to do with him last year. I mean, he was unbelievably good at that role, and thankfully they weren't stubborn enough that they were going to keep insisting that he could play anywhere and do the same thing, because he's a difference maker. I mean, he was a guy that people were talking about as a fringe Heisman candidate. That wasn't going to happen, but that's how well he was playing. And that before he got injured last year, that just wasn't the case.
Is LSU a playoff team?
I don't know. I think they're on the. They need to be a playoff team this year. It's time for LSU with a 12-team playoff. Can they win? Can they win some of those tough road games that they have this year? It's got, but again, because if they beat Clemson, they're a playoff team. Let's start there. But if they lose to Clemson, they can only afford probably one more loss the rest of the way, and I'm not sure. I mean, there's going to be a lot of pressure on Brian Kelly this year, especially if they lose that first game. It's a close call. If Nussmeier makes another jump, because he had a couple of rough games last year there when they lost. He was very good for the most part, but if he gets rid of those bumps and plays like a star all year long, then I think they'll make the playoffs.
I think if they beat Clemson, they do make the playoff, but I think even if they lose to Clemson, when you look at their schedule, there's only one loss the rest of the way, in my opinion, and that's to my Southeastern Lions on a Saturday night in Baton Rouge. But no, they have playoff potential, and I think you see that everywhere. Now, Southeastern's going to be a test now. Let's let the record reflect that. But no, the Clemson game, while again it's going to be frustrating, but I don't think it's going to be fatal if they lose, but they do have playoff potential. And I think it also is going to be telling. They play Florida week 3 at home. You open SEC play, also on WGNO. We'll have a 1-hour post-game special for that as well. But it looks like the biggest tests are relatively early in the schedule. So we'll know what their playoff future could be maybe halfway, 3/4 through the season.
Is Tulane a playoff team?
It's obviously it's possible, because if they win their league, and then it comes down to what does Boise do, what does somebody else do, but there's such a little margin for error. I don't like now with there being a 12-team playoff and with there being a clear spot. I don't think Tulane's schedule is going to help them, because it's going to be hard. I mean, winning at Ole Miss is a massive challenge. The South Alabama game won't be easy, because you want to talk about tough spot in the schedule, but where that is with Duke coming up, which is all 4 of those games. If they can start 3-1 in those 4 games, then they'd still have to run the tape. It's just it's hard. It's hard for a team to make the college football playoff, but they're in that conversation for sure.
1 minute left, all yours.
It's a scenario where they do control their own future, but a lot of things have to go right. Boise does not have to play well. Is there going to be another surprise group of 5 team that's going to emerge in the top 25? Can they do it? Yes, they absolutely can. They proved that last year. They have the talent to do it, but it's just a matter of doing it. I mean, you saw what one loss did. It certainly snowballed the back end of their season. I'm talking about Memphis on Thanksgiving night, but they control their own future. But unfortunately, the position that Tulane is in, you have to have so many other things go right.
Yeah, it's the best of times at Tulane right now.
It is.
I mean, you just wrote about all the money that they've raised for NIL, and I mean, it is the best of times.
And can you imagine starting in 2022, us having a discussion about Tulane, what their legitimate chances were to make a college football playoff? We would have been laughed. It wasn't even a consideration.
And look, the attention to the facilities that's going on right now, it really is a renaissance. If you're a Tulane fan, you've got to be excited about what's going on at Tulane right now. Now, you want to hope you can hold on to Summerall. That you may not be able to do that, but again, you got to love what's going on.
And they can become the first team to make it to the conference championship game 4 straight years in the league. There have been some teams that did it 3 times in a row, which Tulane has done. Nobody's done it 4 times in a row, and they have that real chance this year.
Also on WGNO.
There you go. With 30 seconds left, one more time, hype, the show's coming up.
So you can catch us Friday nights at 10:30 on NOLA 38, the WGNO Sports Zone. That replays at 10:30 Saturday mornings. Our first episode of Friday Night Football, it's a 30-minute scrimmage show. That's next Friday, August 22nd. And then, of course, we're 1 hour for the next 16 weeks after that. And then, of course, Sports Zone Saturday Night Football. That kicks off immediately after the LSU-Clemson game. We'll have a 1-hour post-game special. Anytime these LSU-SEC matchups are on ABC, we'll have a 1-hour extravaganza, not only recapping LSU and their opponent, but also the local scene, what's going on at Tulane, Southeastern Nichols Southern. It's the most beautiful part of my job.
Yeah, and you got to check it out at Channel 26. And the pullout, it will be.
I don't know.
Not sure the date yet?
I'm not sure what the date is. I should. That's my bad, but I've never heard.
Listen to the radio show on Thursdays. Gary will have that for you as well. All right, thanks so much for tuning in. Remember, there's a QR code on your screen that will take you to my website, ericasher.com, and also WLAE-TV YouTube channel. Set your DVR. You'll never miss the show. Pelican Sports Television, WLAE-TV, WLAE-TV 2. We got so many ways to catch the program. Set your DVR. You'll never miss the show. Catch me on the radio, 106.7 The Ticket. I'm on 4 to 6 weekdays. You can listen live at ericasher.com, 106.7 The Ticket's website. Also, 106.7 has our own app as well. You can listen out live there. The podcast is on all podcasting platforms. Just search Inside New Orleans Show with Eric Asher. And as always, want to thank the underwriters who make our show possible. Please support our underwriters. Also, the staff here at WLAE-TV who produce our program do a great job every single week. Ron Yeager, Jim Dotson, Alex Chacon, best director on the planet, William Hill. For Richie Mills and Guerry Smith, I'm Eric Asher. Thanks so much for tuning in. We'll see you next week for another edition of Inside New Orleans Sports. Thanks for watching.
You're there for them. We're here for you. Find free care guides at aarp.org/caregiving.
We're local and educational. You're watching WLAE-TV, celebrating 40 years of New Orleans public television.